Hey everyone, my name is Rooster, and welcome back to Mechabellum. A surprise update dropped today, which, caught me by surprise. Usually they update on Thursdays or Fridays, but today we have a balanced patch on Wednesday. Today I had a replay planned. Sadly, it expired because of this update, so yeah, I'll have a replay for you guys tomorrow. But let's go through the changes that they have implemented today. So it's update 1.8.1.1. And they say that the theme of Season 5 is rebalance and refinement, and update 1.8.1.1 is another step towards better unit balance in order to prepare the game for big updates in the next season. I am kind of curious to know what those big updates will be. The devs have teased that they are working on 2 new units, one I think being some type of Fire Titan, and then the other being some type of melee unit, but that can also turn into a ranged unit. Not entirely sure what that will look like, but sounds exciting. Either way, we have balance adjustments today, and it starts with the Vulcan. So the Vulcan's attack has been dropped by 5%, down to 80. The reason for this is apparently the Vulcan was doing too well after some of the changes it received in the previous patch, with its projectile speed going up significantly. And while they tried to, kind of tune for that, I will say at High MMR, I don't feel like the Vulcan has been that oppressive. It has seen more play, but I think it still kind of gets outdone by a comp like Arclight Storm Sandworm, which, I mean, I'm curious to see if there are any changes too, because I think, Sandworm, especially Mechanical Division, even though it has been hit, is still a very, very powerful unit in especially standard kind of matchups where you would see a Vulcan. War Factory gets a bunch of changes and nerfs as well. So Photon Coating, Launcher Overload, and Missile Interceptor all get buffed, but Steel Ball Production and Sledgehammer Production get nerfed. So the reasoning behind this, they said, was because apparently Production Factory was doing too well, which doesn't really surprise me. I mean, I have been running into it a whole bunch. It doesn't really give me much troubles when I play into it, but I have seen a lot of people play it at High MMR, so apparently it is causing trouble to a lot of other people because, well, otherwise they wouldn't make it that high, right? So, yeah, happy to see this because I don't want the whole ladder to just be one comp. So I think that is a good thing. And then they're trying to balance for that by making, I guess, Battle Factory a bit more powerful. I don't think people will play Photon Coating. It's not been a tech on the unit for a while. Launcher Overload, maybe Missile Interceptor I could see being useful. I have seen factories, being played into things like Overlords, and you might even see them get played now in Standard if people really spam Stormcallers, because that used to be kind of the main response to that type of board. Maybe there is something there for Corner Factory to make a return, but honestly, I doubt it because Mountain kind of hard counters that type of play, and Abyss also has been added in the game since. So I think overall we'll just see less factories, which, I mean, I don't mind that much. I'm not the biggest fan of metas where factory is very popular, but yeah, interesting change, and I think it does kind of reflect what we were seeing happening on the ladder. Fire Badger gets some changes as well. Field Maintenance is getting dropped in price. Scorching Fire is going up in price. And then, importantly, Scorching Charge and Counterfire are getting some buffs. I don't know why they haven't kind of mentioned what they changed. But they say increase the Fire Badger's base HP by 70%. And then I think the rest of the text is just the exact same as it was previously. They just gave it a whole bunch more HP, because I think in the past it was like gain a bonus 40% or maybe 50% hit points. So that now went up to 70. And for Counterfire, it's a similar thing. I think it gained like 30% bonus hit points. It now gains 40% bonus hit points, and then it still has that effect of gaining bonus range. I could see this being used. I mean, once you start getting over that threshold of 50% bonus hit points, the tech gets scary. And keep in mind, they are pretty cheap techs as well. I mean, Rhino Armor gets clicked all the time, and that just gives 50% bonus hit points. Of course, you have another effect, alongside it, but that's the same case with Scorching Charge and Counterfire. So maybe there's a weird build here where you can make your Badgers ultra tanky by going Scorching Charge and Counterfire, or maybe even Scorching Charge and Field Maintenance. and yeah, just kind of stat check your opponent. I could see it happen. Void Eyes are getting a very minor buff of 3%. I guess Void Eye hasn't been played that much ever since they did nerf the suppression shots on it, which I think it did deserve a nerf. Energy Absorption is getting a bit of a boost as it's increasing the HP by 60%, which I think is more than it used to give. So that's an interesting one. I could see people putting this back on the bar. It is still a pretty cheap tech, I think, at 50. It's not free anymore, but still, a 50 cost tech is not a lot. So if you don't want to ever play like mass, heavy carry Void Eyes, for which you typically need all of the slots, right? You need like range and an aerial and shield and charge shots, typically, I would say. If you're not going to play that, then I think maybe Energy Absorption could be worth it, especially if you get a unit drop with like some high-level Void Eyes in there. You just click that tech and then forget about them. They can be pesky to deal with. Scorpion, Field Maintenance, and Armor Enhancement are getting cheaper. Very cheap even. I mean, 150 for Field Maintenance, 100 for Armor Enhancement is criminally low. So I could see people running this. I have been thinking about it for a while. I know some high MMR players have been running either Field Maintenance or Armor on their tech bar for a while. So I definitely think this will have an impact. Anytime techs start to kind of get to that 150 and 100 point, they become like so cheap that there's almost no reason needed to justify clicking it. So yeah, if they're okay with dropping something off the bar, I mean, I don't even know what it would be really. I guess if you don't want siege mode, you could drop that. After that, double shot I think is kind of mandatory, so maybe you can take off acid, but yeah, tricky one. But I do think it's worth reconsidering the tech bar there. Tarantula is getting an HP buff. Apparently it wasn't doing too hot after the Void Eye nerf, so they're trying to make it a bit more popular. I still think Tarantula is very capable. It did receive some changes recently with its attack speed, although that mostly just impacts Mechanical Rage, which still isn't the most played tech on it. But, I mean, anytime you touch this unit, there is a tipping point where it just becomes overwhelmingly good. So, yeah, I do think this will have an impact. I already played Tarantulas every now and then. I still think it's a very capable unit. It kind of struggles in the early game, as it's mostly always done. And then it becomes an absolute monster in the mid to late game when it just chaff clears everything by itself. Starter packs, we have some changes. Tarantula and Fang gets a bit of an HP modifier, so it gets buffed. I mean, it is a pretty decent opener, I'd say, although it is a bit vulnerable to Stormcallers. But, again, it adds up to the Tarantula buff that they did as well. And Giant Specialist is getting a bit of a nerf. So from plus 200 to plus 100, I think that's only fair. Giant Specialist has very rapidly become one of the best, if not the best specialist, because we now have so many Giants and Titans in the game that it's much easier to make use of it, right? You can go Vulcan, but not just that. You can go Worm, you can go Fortress, you can go Raiden, Overlord. I mean, you can even buy one of the Titans at a reduced unlock price. And yeah, defensively, it's an S tier specialist, so I do think it makes sense to nerf that. It still is going to be very good, even whilst losing 100 hit points there. I think Giant Spec still had some pretty nice, hit point totals, even with, plus 100 instead of plus 200. 2v2, some changes. Solo queue players can also engage in 2v2 battles in the casual mode, and they significantly reduce the MMR lost by solo queue players in 2v2 battles if their teammates surrender prematurely. Some nice quality of life changes, I would say. I don't play a lot of 2v2 in the ladder, but I do know it's a lot of people's favorite game mode, and for good reason. So, yeah, happy to see those changes. Overall, not the biggest of changes. I think the main things here that are going to change, I think Vulcan, honestly, that's a pretty sizable nerf. I already think that for high MMR, and I'm talking 2k MMR plus, it was a unit that was kind of on the fringes of being very good, but, it was still kind of getting outdone by Arclight Worm, and that hasn't been touched. So I think Vulcan will maybe see a bit less play now. War Factory will see less play for sure. I don't think that the buffs to the Carry Factory will have much of an effect, But honestly, I was getting tired a bit of seeing factories all the time, so I think it's good that they did touch the production. Fire Badger might have the most interesting theory craft, because buffing Scorching Fire, or Counterfire and Scorching Charge, apologies, especially in the hit point of the Fire Badger, I think could have some labbing where you can make a tanky Fire Badger build for the front lines. I do think it's worth looking at. Void Eye is not really the biggest deal, although maybe Energy Absorption worth running now if you don't ever play carry Void Eye. Scorpions, definitely. I think this is going to see some play because that's just criminally low pricing for techs like that, and tanky Scorpions can be a nightmare to deal with. Tarantulas, I think we'll see more play as well. They were already in an okay spot in my opinion. Not the best, but definitely not terrible either. And yeah, those buffs to the starter pack plus the Tarantula, I think, will make it so we see it being played more. Giant Spec receives a bit of a health nerf, but it will still be a very powerful specialist, I'm sure. Anyway, if you liked this video, please leave a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this patch. Biggest thing for me missing, I guess, would be a Sandworm nerf. I think it is kind of dominating the especially long range versus long range games, but hey, I'll happily keep playing it to get some MMR. With that being said, if you want to stay up to date with latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.